Hello, everyone. It's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. So I went to Salt Lake Fan X. It used to be called Salt Lake Comic Con or Comic Convention, and apparently they got sued for doing that. I've said that a few times, but I recorded video there, and I'll admit I was not prepared for how difficult it was going to be to actually have a meaningful video recorded at a crowded convention. So I'm editing video to put together to show from the convention. It's not a lot and you can't hear me a lot, but I do want to share some of my thoughts on that video as well as here. So what this could be is a partial haul from what I got from the convention, but I had a totally different perspective when I was looking at this convention. Now, the reason why I think it's important to note that this technically is not called a comic convention is because most comic conventions still carry the name, or it'll be about comics, or at least in name about comics. And I kept thinking, this is a comic convention, but as I was thinking about it, it's really not. Like, comics are welcome. They're the minority on the stage. Yeah, there are C-list celebrities there and things like that, but beyond that, it's just about pop culture, and it's a good cross section of what YouTube is really like. In that anime was front and center. Anime was just massive. It was everything. Anyway, so what I want to show you here is this is a print that I got from an artist I'd never heard of before, but I just walked by and it looked amazing. This is sideways so that you can see it, but I'll put it right side up here for you. And it was just cool. Everything he did just looked great. So I picked out this print and I kind of wanted more, and I'm kind of regretting not getting more prints, but here we are. Anyway, so the one thing I wanted to point out though is that we get really energized about, it's easier to sell comics online with YouTube than it is at a convention. But, however, one thing I want to point out though is that most people at a convention sit on their butt. And all of the comic book creators I saw were sitting on their butt. They were making literally no effort to stand out. They were hoping that their books would speak for themselves. And if you think about it, there's not much to speak, especially if you're a writer or you're trying to sell it on the story. There's not much there. So this print, the reason why this is such a good symbol of how the convention went is because this guy could sell prints. He'd come up and I complimented it, like, oh, this looks great. He'd say, awesome, which one are you looking at? Oh, I kind of like this, one of these all look cool right here. He said, whatever, 3 for whatever the price is, grab 3 of them, grab one. I say, well, I like this one. He said, okay, let's pack it up. He'd take it. Like, he was closing the sell, and that really worked. Clearly it worked. Whereas there were other booths, it was easy to kind of look around and be like, oh, this looks great. I'd compliment people still just the same. And then I would get distracted by something else and move along. Or maybe there's something else out there. But having somebody that was eager to sell the work, very proud of it, and could actually just close the sell, that worked for in-person sells. And I think that if I treated working at a convention, let's assume that I actually could get a table, if I was selling my own stuff at a convention, that would have to be the mindset. You'd have to treat it like, okay, I've got a crowdfunding campaign. I'm going to be on my toes. I'm going to be selling books. I'm going to be working hard. But it's funny because at conventions, that mindset doesn't exist. Why is it that for a crowdfunding campaign, you can put on that face and like roll up your sleeves, but at a convention, most people are just sitting there hoping to be noticed. Anyway, so that was pretty great. One other thing I wanted to really get was, I spent a lot of time talking about that print. One other thing I really wanted to get was the sketch cover done. I'm going to say his name wrong, but this is Sal Velluto. I think that's how you pronounce his name correctly. And he and Peter David were there, and I guess they were the biggest names in comics, which, you know, that's the Salt Lake comic convention for you. There's just, you're not getting like A-list current talent in comics that are coming, but it was cool to see both of them there in that they had a history in comics. So I wanted Downcast done. I said, can you draw this character? And so he was great, did a good job, and there we go. Got my own character on a sketch cover. It's pretty fun. So that was great. And again, with the artists, something I noticed is that they're drawing at a table, which can be fun to watch, but at the same time, you have to go out of your way to go watch them. You feel like you're invading someone's personal space, which I guess is part of the benefit of YouTube, is that people can come and lurk and they don't feel like they're putting you off to be watching. Not that Sal, he was just drawing, enjoying himself. He was a perfectly friendly guy, but he wasn't like going out of his way to invite people. And I've never, again, I'm not like coming from a convention perspective. I'm coming from a YouTube, and this is the personality and the way that you have to sell things on the internet. And it's so strange. No wonder why people say conventions don't work, because it puts so much of the onus onto the fans, the readers, the customers, to go out of their way to make sure they're getting the things that they want to buy. So that was something else I wanted to point out. Jeez, I'm shaking my whole camera here. All right. I got some local comics that just caught my eye. Lady Frankenstein, mainly because this is like newsprint, kind of cool. It's aged newsprint. That's what he said. So it actually looks like it's been around a while. It turns out pretty good, I think. Looks nice. So I'll have to read this, see what I think. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. Another local guy, and this is one of the first ones I saw. What I want to point out here is through the $3 price point, and I wanted to talk here because I'm selling Alterna. I think the sketch cover is $225, $225. But if you're selling only floppies at a convention and you're upset that you didn't make enough money to cover your table, of course not. Why is it that you can put this much effort into drawing pages and pages and pages of a book, sell it for $3, and you're not going to make a living? And in the meantime, there are people selling prints for at a minimum of $10, but up to $60 that I saw for a single print. And people were happy to pay that money for one page. It just shows like where comics are in the market. And so I like collected editions, I guess, better for that reason. I felt bad and I wanted to support comic book creators a little bit better than just $3. But I guess it's all part of the process. This is how conventions, I guess, work or don't work in comics, but just something I wanted to point out. I think that they could absolutely be better, though, but you have to figure out, it's kind of like a crowdfunding campaign. What is your average dollar amount going to be? And how can you incentivize people to pay more so that it becomes more worth your time to be there? I want comic creators to make money, but I think, seriously, this convention has been a good education for me. Not that it's my first convention by any means, but it's my first convention that I was seriously looking at it from a business perspective, and how do you make a convention work for a comic book creator? And I think there has to be ways to get people to spend more than $3 on a comic book, or like anything in total. You got to be able to have them spend more than that, especially if they're interested. And so I don't have the answers, but something that you have to work on. All right, and one more I'm going to show. I have more books, but I got a bunch that were appropriate for kids, and my kids took them, so they're actually reading them right now before bedtime. This is one, though, and it's from this publisher called, this is Storm Kids, so I guess this is their imprint. That's not the title, but this is John Carpenter Presents. What? How have I not heard of this company? The company is Storm King Comics, and they had also horror that were done by they're done for adults, but this was from, I guess, their imprint for Storm Kids. So it's called Hyperbreed, written by Louise Simonson. What? So as I looked through these, they're actually really well done, like great art. It looks great. I got another graphic novel that my son's reading right now, and then I had a floppy comic that was for very young kids, and everyone liked that. My wife liked it as well, and so it begs the question. I guess I'm out of it that I don't know who Storm King is, but it's by John Carpenter, and clearly this is a publisher that had enough money to invest in several titles of graphic novels that were thick. Yeah, I only think the one title that was in floppy format. Everything else was a graphic novel. So I want to look into it a little bit more and see how this publisher works. But it goes to show that they're actually spending a lot of money to produce these books. Probably, I don't know if John Carpenter's just financing the whole thing, but I could tell you something like this has got to cost tens of thousands of dollars to produce just the artwork, just the story, and then it's going to cost another, at least 10 grand, if not more, much more, depending on how many books they're printing, because these are actually nice books. It's even, embossed right there. So really, I don't know, it's just interesting. I'm beginning to realize that while I think I know everything that there is to know about comics, like it's just easy to sort of fall into that trap. The online world of comics is not everything. There's so much more out there, and maybe I could tap into some of that. Another book that my daughter has right now, I talked to the guy, and he had a publishing deal, he had distribution, and he was selling on Amazon. And I said, have you ever tried crowdfunding? And he said, well, we opened a GoFundMe, not Indiegogo, a GoFundMe to produce the comic pages just to help get things running. And then we started selling it as well. And I'm just like, why not use crowdfunding to get your book made initially? Anyway, so it was just interesting to see. So I asked him a bit about Amazon. I don't know what sales numbers are for him, if it's super worth it or not. But again, it is interesting to see how, I don't know, other people are doing comics. How well are they doing? I'm not sure, but I think these are avenues worth looking into. So that was a lot of the business stuff with comics, with this convention anyway. All in all, it was fun. I had a really good time with my brother, spending some time. And I don't know, I am planning on doing a convention at some point. Timing, I wasn't able to get into this one because I started too late, so I didn't really get a slot, which is just my own fault. But I will get into one, and I want to start applying what I think would be a better way to draw attention and sell comics, better than just sitting at a table. I'm sure it could be better because there are good examples of people. This guy was selling prints like hotcakes. Everyone was around his table taking prints. He was crushing it. While other people were just sitting there waiting to be noticed. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got Downcast fulfilling hopefully soon. Printer's got Downcast 3 right now, and I will be shipping that soon. And then I'm going to edit more. I'll edit some video and show you some of the views from the convention. Anyway, thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.